Just a few words. Those of you who don't know me, let me tell you a little about BPI France, because maybe not everyone knows BPI France. It was created in July 2013. We're a group that's owned at 50% by the Caisse des Dépôts and 50% by the French government. We have a merger of several organisms that already exist, funded ISOs, investment in SMEs, and the strategic investment funds for investment in major corporations. So all this was merged within one entity in July 2013. The idea was to say French entrepreneurs must only go to one address for their development and the funding of their companies. So we have 42 regional directions all over France, and a French company manager, when they go to a BPI regional delegation, will find people who can give them their own funds, and they'll find representatives of Business France who can work with them internationally, and also representative of COFAS to ensure the international development. So we really have all the tools, all the possible tools to fund and work with companies. We create companies to development, to the transmission of small to very big companies. And we have two strategic priorities, innovation and international. And for innovation, we have a geographic area, which is one which we would like to invest in Africa. I'm not going to go over the macro figures of Africa, which mean that for French companies, it's a very interesting thing to focus on. But what I can tell you is that amongst our customers, there is at least 1 in 3 companies, at the very least, that exports or who's interested in Africa. And one thing we can pick up from the discussions we've had with these companies is that they often ask about the practices of states, corruption, etc. And they also have questions on the difficulty, the changes in legal rules, and how we can find the right partners. So it seemed quite clear in BPI France that we needed to implement some tools to work with these company managers, taking into account the stakes for the French economy and the questions that entrepreneurs were asking. So we have implemented several tools. When it comes to equity, we have our own funds. Averroès Finance, we created it at the beginning of the 90s with our friend from Proparco, who at the beginning only invested in Northern Africa. So our investment funds in Northern Africa, we've worked with 6 investment teams, more general-based funds who worked in Northern African SMEs, and we also then created another second similar vehicle, and we have just carried out the closing of a third vehicle, Averroès Finance number 3, and the geographic area for investment of his funds was extended to sub-Saharan Africa. So we're going to aim for teams that are going to invest in SMEs or larger companies who are going to invest in several countries at once. We want to have teams which we call regional teams of the size of Africa. So nowadays the fund is 60 million euro and the target size is 200 million. I'm not going to go over all the criteria and how we invest in all these funds and all the due diligence that we can do at the level of ESG. We have help with this, with departmental teams, and ad hoc departmental teams from Proparco, and our own ESG management in BPI France. I'm not going to go over all this information because I think you have already talked about all this in depth today. But we do have a second project, which is for the first semester of 2015. It's Franco-African funds.
So this is in line with what you were saying beforehand about trying to create more bonds between France and Africa. What is about this French-African fund? The objective is 200 million euros investing in SMEs or in mid-sized companies that are French and wish to develop in Africa. And the other way around, SMEs, mid-sized companies from Africa that would like to settle in France. The target therefore, would be exporting companies or that already export or will export with a 30 to 300 million euro turnover, so highly profitable companies. And we're currently working in order to create this fund. For something completely different from equities, we try to strike agreements with the Africa-based institute. We signed a partnership agreement with AFD last year, and this is now the result of a long-standing cooperation with AFD in Africa and in the rest of the world. So we signed an agreement with the Tijari Wafa Bank. You know, it is a big Moroccan bank that is well developed in Western Africa. And therefore, with Atijari, we intend to roll out several actions, like a counter guarantee system. When the Atijari customer is in Abidjan and wishes to create a subsidiary in France, BPI France should be able to lend money to this subsidiary, and Atijari will guarantee the loan that we grant his customer subsidiary. And the other way around, when a French company creates a subsidiary in Morocco, it will be funded by Atijari, and we will be able to guarantee this funding scheme. We're also trying to connect companies working in the field of transportation. Atijari counts among this customer many companies working in the field of transportation, and we're now organizing a session between Atijari's customers, Africa, Morocco and Western Africa, and our own customers in France interested in transport. We started with Atijari Wafa Bank, and now we intend to further develop this kind of projects in Africa with the help of Proparco, by the way. We're working on this topic all together. Two last actions. We work with Business France, and we organize during fairs and shows. We take French companies to Africa. We went to Cameroon at the Energy Trade Show, oil and gas. And Business France there organizes meetings between French SMEs that are part of the delegations and African companies. And at last, we carry out another type of actions, which is more marginal, I would say. Not that traditional, but we provide consultancy for financial institutions in Africa. And they are, in fact, SMEs funding institutions either that are created or wish to develop new products. And we are here to support them. For instance, we're now helping Djibouti to create the first warranty funds for SMEs in Djibouti. We've provided consultancy to the warranty funds in Senegal, Fongi. We've also worked with SMEs funding banks in Tunisia to create new products, etc. So the rationale behind this is to help and contribute to the creation of financial tools that will be used by professionals, but also to reach partnership agreements that will be very important for us, and therefore French companies will be able to turn to when they need proper funding. Now, going back to our core topic today, especially about equities. What can we say about our achievements since we've been working in the fields for capital investment for 20 years in France? working with funds of funds. So what about the major trends and what about our achievements? Well, first of all, things are not perfect, of course, in terms of ESG criteria. But things have improved greatly, and now there is a single management company that claims that it is not interested in that topic because it is like being profitable, you know, or being able to support a company. It is basic practice for capital investment purposes. We have several criteria to consider. First of all, everything we've talked about, money laundering fight, corruption fight, promotion of the environment, also the role of employees within their companies and profit sharing, the role of women as well in governance body. We've considered all our participations, and that was the first surprise, 44% of women. There are 44% of women represented in boards of directors in the companies we're working with. It's quite good. It means that things are improving gradually. Now, regarding trends in capital investment in France, there are two main trends currently. Most management companies are independent companies in France, and part of the governance you'll find independent administrators and managers. So that's what LPs are asking for. It's a big trend. And the second major trend is the recollection of, if you will, of management companies and the increase in their size. For many years, we've supported the creation of new teams, and now the trend tends to be increasing the size of teams and having already existing teams working together. The rationale behind it is to help these teams better support companies. When we refer to statistics, a company supported by capital investors has a life expectancy which is 5 to 10 years longer than companies that is not supported by capital investors. And the more experienced the capital investors will be, the greater the life expectancy of companies will be. So you see the role of the capital investors. It is really important in supporting these companies. They're not here to provide money, not only to provide money, but also being able to support. So the increase of the size of funds that are managed is the way to better support companies, to recruit professionals of greater quality, and to financially support company in the longer run, and also to be able to abide by all these standards. There are many new regulations indeed to consider. And when a small management company has to come up with ESG reports, of course, this company must be well equipped to abide by all these criteria. I was delighted to take part to this meeting. It is a topic I strongly believe in. We're working very hard. BPI France is working really hard to reconcile both continents. This morning we had a meeting with investors here and an African investment fund. And we were all exchanging about their contribution, trying to match participations, who could do business with who could invest and how and where. So we regularly organize this kind of events. I strongly believe in that. We have several hundreds of participations held by BPI France directly. So we have quite a lot on our plate in order to help our investee companies. Thank you.